You might be asking, how can we come up with ideas that change my business or the world? I believe there are two ways. Problems are something to be dealt with, while wonder is the desire to know something. Hello, my name is Michael Script, and I'm a third-generation American inventor. Thank you for joining me today to talk about the language, pandemic, social distancing, asteroids, financial downturn, business crisis, riots, and political unrest. Now what? Today we need a new tool in the war against adversity. In every profession you can think, there is a specific language that exemplifies the process and the operation. For example, if you've ever talked to a lawyer, you quickly understand that the legal profession has a language that has evolved over millennia. Doctors, when they talk to you and then talk to the nurse, the language changes. The doctor says to you, "I'm going to give you a shot," but turns to the nurse and says, "Prepare 10 cc's of prednisone and 2 cc's of cyclobenzaprine." And God forbid your computer breaks and you have to talk to someone at Geeks R Us. Well, ideas have a language that brings them from your mind into the reality of others. The language of ideas can become a powerful tool in your war against adversity. As you can see in this slide, Sir Isaac Newton invented the universal law of gravity during the bubonic plague. He was home alone. That was an invention, but let me give you an innovation. In 2009, after the country was still recovering from the economic collapse, Facebook was in its infancy. Its management was amazed to discover that Vin Diesel, the cult movie star of Pitch Black and The Fast and the Furious, had over 1 million likes. He now has well over 100 million. 1 million likes was an order of magnitude larger than anyone else's. The traffic that Vin Diesel's content attracted undoubtedly contributed to the social network's phenomenal growth. As Vin Diesel was later to remark, "Facebook owes me billions of dollars for boosting its profile." Well, while Diesel obviously benefited by gaining exposure on Facebook for his personal brand, he received not a single cent from Facebook. He did get a phone call from the network's management demanding that he reveal the secret of his page's popularity. Worst yet, due to Facebook's IP policy, the content that Vin Diesel created on the site and that drew so many users to Facebook in the first place was no longer exclusively his. It now also belonged to Facebook. Ideas can change the world. What is the difference between invention and innovation? This is probably the most important part of my presentation. We caution our clients and customers the peril that innovation can lead if not taken seriously. For the reasons I've identified in this slide, innovation has very weak litigation, with rare exceptions, has a very narrow valuation in the market, and has been treated very informally in companies trying to move the needle. Whereas invention is in the Constitution, it has a history of litigation and a foundation in law, a defined lifespan, and can evolve over time. These are very strong characteristics that should lead you toward invention and cautiously towards innovation. You might be asking, how can we come up with ideas that change my business or the world? I believe there are two ways. Problems are something to be dealt with, while wonder is the desire to know something. Let me give you an example of both. I was remodeling my house in New York, and the contractor and I became good friends. He's young and was inquisitive about my life as an inventor. So I told Alex about the problem and wonder start two ideas. The next day, I actually witnessed Alex standing at the house, staring intently at his guys, cutting wood, measuring material, marking down instructions, and they constantly kept dropping and losing their pencils and then borrowing them from other guys. Up on the ladder, I heard one of his guys yell down for a pencil. The next day, Alex wanted to show me his invention, something we called tip scribe. Tip scribe is worn on the finger with a pencil at the tip. Now his workers will never lose their scribes. An example of wonder comes from our friend Michael Brett, Senior Vice President of Applications at Rigetti. They wonder how a quantum computer can simulate quantum computing systems, because that's an application where they know for sure that quantum systems in general cannot be efficiently simulated on our classical computers. Once you have focused on a problem or have wondered about something new, your idea must blossom and become real. It's a long process from idea to legacy. You see, stopping at any point along the process of ideation, your idea can become lost or stolen. That's why it's important to understand how your ideas become reality. Each step along the path to having an idea become legacy are a set of rules that mold and shape the power of your idea. Here's the commercial part of the presentation. Into Capital works with your group to move the needle towards legacy or help pivot your idea towards your goals. Whether you're stuck between prototypes and productization or revenue to profits, Into Capital has the expertise to move the needle. Ideas are intellectual property, and intellectual property are assets. As I mentioned earlier, inventions are government recognized as new products or methods. Innovations may be a new method, idea, or product that may potentially be patentable. But there are other types of idea assets. Copyrights are creative works fixed in tangible form, like books, manuscripts, and movie scripts. Patents are government-exclusive grants of exclusivity to inventors for a specific period of time. Trademarks assign content, color, sounds, and smells in conjunction with products and services to the entity that uses them. Trade secrets are seen as information used as value from being secret. Right of publicity are for those individuals that want to control their name, likeness, and persona from being used by others. Here's my favorite, consumer-generated intellectual property, which is a combination of two trends: value propositions moving from the physical to the informational, and value creation shifting from firms to consumers. These two trends meet in the phenomenon of consumer-generated intellectual property. Let me give you an example. Michael Powell was a regular customer of Home Depot. He observed that a number of Home Depot employees were being injured when cutting wood for customers at the store. He developed a finger guard called Safe Hands to protect workers from the blades of the radial saws and demonstrated it to the company in 2004. Home Depot liked it so much, they copied it, the gloves, and put them into all their stores. They schooled their employees on the benefits and reduced employee injuries by 90%. Home Depot was so grateful, they gave Mr. Powell nothing. He sued, and the jury returned a verdict in favor of Powell and awarded him $15 million. The jury also found that the Home Depot's infringement was willful, which allowed the judge to augment the damages and award him an additional $5.8 million. He also added interest from May 16, 2006, the date when Mr. Powell's patent issued. The total damages awarded were over $24.5 million. The power of using the language of ideas. Today we're looking at how to get and develop ideas, not how to start a business. That comes later. When you and your company are developing ideas, the steps are different from what you may be used to when starting a business. For instance, we'll see that production and distribution comes before marketing and sales. Why? Because if we can't make the product or service, marketing and sales won't matter. Once you understand the flow of an idea, you can quickly pivot and reimagine your new products and services. So far, we've looked at the language of ideas. Now let's start to look at how to process and develop ideas. Before we start this slide, I'd like to introduce members of my team. Christy Buckles-Otto is a partner and international MBA with Into Capital. And Rob Rando is an attorney and appointed in numerous patent cases as a special patent master, which is a person who has in-depth topical legal knowledge facing those that wish to prosecute, litigate, license, and monetize their patents. And Cheryl Malone Cowles is an intellectual property attorney, IP strategist, IP developer, competitive analysis of IP assets, and the commercialization of IP. Starting the idea process. Number 1, everyone signs a non-disclosure or non-compete agreement, and when the idea changes, you amend the non-disclosure or non-compete. All signed agreements are filed with your legal counsel or human resources and used for any infringement or at termination of any employee. Number 2, there are at least 3 steps in idea validation. A, write down your product concept. That forces you to reconsider and rethink your idea. The greater the detail, the better. You can then use that detail to file your non-provisional patent and have patent pending status for 1 year. Then you can consider whether to file a provisional patent application to gain patent status. B, decide. Once you have enough valid information, test each and every assumption. Remember, you will never get to 100% certainty about your product or service, but the game is progress, not perfection. C, ask why. Establish a list of contacts to interview and test your assumptions. Use your network if that's all you have. Don't worry about the potential bias. Your job is to get close to the truth. Hit the streets and start testing your assumptions through interviews, then reconnoiter and interview again. Through these simple steps, you should have the value proposition. If not, go back to step 1 and start the process over by asking why you didn't find the value proposition. Number 3, gold comes out of research and development. Remember, research and development is the concept phase, and prototypes are not products. Speaking of research and development, here is a look at how much is spent by the top companies around the world. As you can see, Amazon, Volkswagen, Alphabet, which is the Google's founder company, and Intel lead the list. As I mentioned earlier, for the language of ideas in the go-to-market process, production comes before marketing and sales to make sure you can produce the idea. Assuming you can produce your idea, we move ahead with number 4, market validation, which is a series of interviews of people in your target market. These interviews are used to test a product concept against a potential target market. Market validation should always be done before introducing product ideas. Number 5, production, the making of stuff from raw materials. The idea here is volume. Whether you're building the product or service yourself, or you're going to engage a contract manufacturer like Neotech or Flextronics, don't schedule to produce too many of anything. Later we'll see how customer input can change your product or service volume. One more caution. If you're dealing in trade secrets, it's mandatory to monitor the production process. It's critical for IP protection. So build monitoring into your go-to-market for production. Distribution. Outside of normal definitions, I've included 3 parts to distribution. Commerce, analyze what happens while your goods and services are moving from their source to their final destination and the immediate exchange of payment. See if you can cut the time down from you to your customer. Securities. Review the cost of payments. How much does it cost to collect your buyer's money? Statistics. Graphically represent your distribution process and explain the graph with content so you touch everyone's learning style, which is a good note for other parts of the idea process, as long as you don't violate confidentiality. Remember that Steve Jobs followed this process and found so many operations that didn't have any meaning at Apple, he redesigned the entire accounting and distribution process. He looked at the details. These 3 bullets have always been important to your business. Let's take a closer look. Marketing. Use focus groups. They will help define the process or techniques of spiriting the promotion, selling, and distribution of your products or services. Remember, listening to the language here may secure trademarks and copyrights, make manuals, change business model strategies, and define new deliverables which may yield new ideas that lead to patents. Sales. Billions of dollars have been made by people that have developed unique sales strategies, campaigns, channel definitions. For example, Apple's Think Different. That captured Apple's identity, the Apple culture, their products and services. The Apple genre was so strong, you copied Apple at your peril. Your language here becomes the idea in someone's mind. What can I do with your product? Number 8, customer support. There's gold in them thar hills. For your business, capturing the day-to-day customer calls, their issue, their problems, mishaps, all of the unknowns are magnificent points of learning to capture changes, additions, deletions that point back to modifications in your products and services. For example, the HVLS Corporation made industrial-sized fans to cool cattle. They ran at high volume and low speed. They're very big fans. But when people would call the company, they'd say, "Hey, are you the guys that make those big-ass fans?" Years later, at a strategy meeting, the issue came up, and they decided to embrace the name Big-Ass Fans. Lo and behold, their sales skyrocketed. Their customers created consumer-generated intellectual property. Now it was more than just a change of name that created their success, and you can read this story in the link Tech Republic. Number 9, return merchandise is the home of lessons learned, whether it's liked or not liked. The returned merchandise bin is where lessons are learned or fate steps in. Consumers return over $642 billion each year. That's why this is a critically important area. More often than not, you know why products are being returned. It's time to face the music. Like so many other places within the flow of the company, there are pockets of wealth to be gleaned from the management and acceptance of new ideas. And so very much of this is like panning for gold. Your eye must be sharp and diligent. Well, we're close to the end of my presentation, so it's time to decide what type of idea factory your company is going to become. You could become an acquire ideas company through acquisition or license, trademarks, or other ideas that are managed by IP law firms. You can buy ideas. You can become a concentrate ideas company. This is my preferred method, where I develop a core idea and then build rings of associated ideas so that the portfolio stands on its own and is supported by related ideas. You can become a generate ideas company. This is an enterprise-wide management focus to create ideas from across all areas of the company for competitive advantage, copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, inventions, innovations, yes, I said it, innovations, methodologies, strategies, branding, and others. Some companies like Alphabet and Apple are generate idea companies. And as you can see, these companies are very strong. Well, we're here at the end of my presentation. I can't thank you enough for being with me through this journey of the language of ideas. But whatever idea factory you choose, always remember, encourage your people to think differently. Elicit new ideas by example. Hail your own and other people's new ideas. And earn. Let people make money on the ideas that help your business grow. You'll never forget it, and either will they when, God forbid, adversity strikes.